Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's personal branding workshop with Harleny Vasquez. We're very excited to have her as our guest presenter today. She is a social work recruiter and the founder of her own business, Your Evolved Mind. She's going to share with us some personal branding tips, as well as some resources for marketing ourselves on LinkedIn and using that platform to find our next opportunity. So I'm very excited for this personal branding workshop. I know, Harleny, without further ado, please take it away.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. So I'm in New York, so it's the afternoon. So I don't know where everyone's, well, pretty much California. But of course, just in case you're tuning in and you're not over there, good afternoon, good morning. I'm going to go ahead and, actually, Virginia, you have to give me access to share my screen. But until she does that, I'm very excited to be here. I know I'm going to be going over a lot of information. Of course, this is being recorded. So please, as I go through the presentation, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, please make sure to put them in the chat box, because towards the end, it's going to be a lot of, Q&A, at least 20 minutes. I like to ensure that, there's a lot of engagement, because again, I am going to be going over a lot of things. So let's go ahead and share my screen. 1 second, technology. Okay, perfect. So obviously right now I cannot see everyone's beautiful faces. So if anyone, like I mentioned, if any thoughts or questions as I go through presentation, please make sure to put it in the chat box and I will go ahead and look through it after. Before I get started on this presentation, I wanted to start it off with 2 questions to kick off the poll, because I would love to see if people actually have LinkedIn, and if people know what imposter syndrome is. So Virginia, whenever you're ready, you can kick off those polls. I'm curious to see the results. And I'm very animated. I'm going to continue to be animated through the entire presentation, because come on, it's after the holidays. You have to stay upbeat. And like I said, this is my favorite topic to discuss. I want to make sure. Okay. So the polls, okay. So give everyone a few minutes to go ahead and answer it. And I'm assuming, Virginia, after you can share the results, because I don't know if I'll be able to see it.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you couldn't see the results. So I see them up here on my screen, and we have 7 out of 8 participants said yes, they are aware of imposter syndrome, and then 1 said kind of. So if you could give us a refresher. But most of us social workers, unfortunately, are familiar with the term.
Perfect. And what about LinkedIn? I mean, who had the LinkedIn profile?
We'll go ahead and share that poll right now.
And the reason I like to ask these questions, because of course I've come across many social workers and they're like, imposter syndrome, what? LinkedIn, what? So it's more along the lines of just me knowing where everyone's, knowledge is when it comes to those particular terms. And of course, we're all social workers or even aspiring social workers. So it's just along those lines, just to get a little refresher to where everyone is at.
Okay, so it looks like everyone joining us today, all 9 participants so far, said that they do have a LinkedIn profile.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, as you can see on the screen, these are all of my handles. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. So let's get started. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So first, I want to start with saying, and of course, I know that everyone is in different stages right now. And to my knowledge, at least the primarily of attendees today are, interns. And, there can be a lot of things going through your mind right now as you're probably trying to navigate the next steps or trying to figure out, what type of role am I going to secure once I graduate? Like, am I doing something right? Am I doing something wrong? So self-sabotage, like, it's totally real. And the reason why I want to start the presentation with this particular topic, to kind of give an overview to my particular background. I've been in the field of social work for about 8 years. I graduated with my MSW in 2018, but I started way before, around 2012 or so, primarily working within social services with children and families, around trauma-informed practice. So it's coming from a place of, I definitely know how it feels, especially me being a Latina, a first generation, overcoming many barriers of trying to, I was the first in my family to obtain my bachelor's and my master's. So I definitely know the expectations and the pressure just to continue and, continue elevating as you're currently navigating the next steps in your career. So I really wanted to just start the presentation with this particular topic. Now, of course, like I mentioned, we're all fellow social workers, aspiring social workers. So we're all definitely aware that their brain is very, very powerful, right? And here's the thing, most of us, and including myself, at times we don't practice what we preach or what we preach to our clients or even future clients, right? When it comes to, that our thoughts do influence the type of actions that we decide to take, right? Some of you have probably heard a little bit more about CBT, right? The particular modality that the way that you view certain things are going to impact and hinder your particular next step. So I wanted to start the particular presentation with this particular picture, right? Kind of having the particular cycle of how powerful your brain can be. Sorry, I keep stopping because every time I click next, it just like freezes. So coming from a place of, those limiting beliefs, right? That little negative voice inside your head that's telling you, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, what if I fail? I don't deserve it. Those thoughts, I do want to validate that it's normal, right? Like you're not alone and it's okay. I'm not saying that is not okay, like for you not to feel like this. But what I'm trying to say is that it's normal and that everybody goes through this particular process. The most important thing that you can do right now as you're getting ready to navigate the next steps in your career is to take control of your thoughts right now. Of course, it's easier said than done. I'm not saying you're going to have a magic wand and you're going to say, I'm going to be so positive and I'm never going to think negative about myself. I'm just saying that it's okay to recognize that some days I'm going to have my good days and some days I'm going to have, days that I struggle with how I currently view my skills and my ability. Another thing that I want to mention is that as you're currently going from this particular transition to intern to graduating, right, to being a graduate, the shifts are going to change because I will hope obviously that you all have that support even in the past, and I'm pretty sure right now you do. And if you're upcoming particular opportunities, that as an intern, you may feel that, that you're bothering, or you feel that you're asking too many questions, or you may feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like this is your ability and your opportunity to ask as much questions as you want, right? Like don't be afraid to start advocating for yourself right now. And of course, when you graduate, because when you first step into that role, supervision is going to be key, which the reason why I'm sharing all of this, because of course, all of this is going to tie into when we get into LinkedIn and that personal branding and building your network. And the most important thing is build those foundations now within your mind, within your particular network that you have in your everyday today, whether it's your supervisor, your peers, your colleagues, your family, your friends. Like this is going to be your support system, regardless of how that looks like. And it's about validating, like, you know what, like if I don't know something, it's okay. And when you graduate, it's also important for you to build the skills that you currently have to offer and not focus on, certain modalities or certifications or licensure, right? Because I know that, of course, I have had a love and hate relationship with that exam. It took me multiple tries, I passed and all those things. But the biggest thing that I can say with that exam, and I'm telling you all, is it was my mindset. It doesn't matter that I did this test or this or that. It really comes down to how you view yourself and how you're able to navigate the next steps. And I think someone put something in the chat because I got to think, but, make sure that as things come into place, please put it in the chat box because we'll get into a juicy conversation after. Now, imposter syndrome, that term that is like, what? Of course, everyone has a level of awareness to what this is. It's that fear of that internalized fear of feeling like a fraud, right? Like questioning your every move that, imposter syndrome can come in many ways. It could have been maybe when you were first applying to graduate school. It can be that maybe you're currently thinking of applying to a fellowship or even looking at a job description and you're probably thinking like, there's no way that I'm going to achieve there's no, I'm not even going to look at that, right? Like procrastination can come into play, whether you don't obtain certain references for a fellowship or any, future internships or opportunities. And the reason why I'm sharing this, because going back to what I mentioned, it's important to get a hold of those mindset foundations now to be able to overcome those barriers as they continue to present itself. Now, the way that you can overcome that imposter syndrome, of course, it never goes away. I still deal with it myself. I mean, it's something that, no one's perfect. Like, we're all human, we're always evolving. And the most important thing that I mentioned is to be able to take control of what you're feeling right now. And then the reason as to why you're currently feeling that way, right? So finding out what are your limiting beliefs, where does that stem from, right? And of course, a little bit of inner childhood work if it has to come to that. And I'm saying, again, we're all social workers. We understand. I mean, I will hope we will all understand, our particular, triggers, our particular, behaviors, because again, our thoughts influence the type of actions that we decide to take. So it's coming from a place, if you're able to get a better understanding as to why certain things are coming up for you, it's going to be able to help you in the long run, right? And like I shared previously with some examples of I keep saying example a lot. Like, I'm a visual person. So you're looking at a job description and you're like, I don't have this certification, or I'm a new grad. I'm not going to be able to land that particular role. There's no way. And first asking yourself, okay, when was the last time that someone told me that I couldn't do this, right? So really reflecting and taking the time to give yourself as much grace and validate that you are more than enough in that very moment, right? And another thing that I love to say is name your inner imposter, right? You probably have to think of maybe the someone in high school, right? Maybe that you're like, oh, I didn't like that person. And maybe you want to name them. And the reason why I'm saying to name your inner imposter is because your inner imposter is not you. It's just a thought that is building on that is impacting your behavior. So if you're able to give it a name, you're going to take away its power. And I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, try it. There's going to just be so much power. And you want to be like, no, that's Jennifer. I'm just making this up. That's Jennifer. Well, my inner imposter's name is Jennifer. So if anyone's here named Jennifer, no offense, but it's coming from a place of just saying like, Jennifer, like, this is you. Like, why are you coming up for me right now? Like, I got this. More of that empowerment within. And of course, being able to decide new beliefs, like, this is the belief that I want to decide because of why, right? And again, all of the things I'm saying are easier said than done, but I'm going to show you shortly a self-coaching module. Of course, I did not design this. This is pretty much what I mentioned about, giving it a name and taking away is power, because it's not you, right? So this allows you to dissociate your true self from those beliefs, because those thoughts are no longer serving you. So if you're currently having a thought that's no longer serving you, it's time to let it go, right? Again, easier said than done. So this is the self-coaching module that I was explaining. Like I said, I did not create this module. You can literally Google Brooke Castillo. She designed this particular self-coaching module. And I feel that this particular module has helped me as well as my clients. So this is just a particular tool. Again, it's going to sound a little bit like CBT, but I'm not labeling CBT. But again, we're all social workers, so it's going to look pretty much similar. And if you wanted to go more in depth with this particular module, please look her up. I mean, all her information is on Google. But it's a tool that you can use to gain a better understanding on how to solve and produce the types of results that you want to see, right? Because here's an example. Oh, sorry, the way that the screen is. Okay. Okay, so if this was, so in this particular module, there's an unintentional and an intentional module. The unintentional module, as you can see in this particular example, is going to be in regards to a job search, right? So an unintentional module is things that are really coming up for you in that very moment. So a circumstance is something that you can actually prove in a court of law. Let's say you don't have a job. You can prove that you don't have a job. Now, in regards to your thoughts, what thoughts do you have about that particular circumstance? It can be, I'm a failure. I'll never get a job that I deserve. Then what type of feelings are coming up for you based on that thought. Maybe you feel disappointed. Maybe you feel sad, frustrated. Now, what type of actions are you currently going to take because of these thoughts and these feelings about this circumstance? That you don't prepare effectively and you're not going to seek help. You're just going to stay stuck. And then what ends up being the result? That you don't seek the job that you deserve. The reason why I'm painting this particular picture, because when you put your thoughts on paper, then them become real. They're able to take it out of your subconscious mind and you're like, okay, well, this is why I'm thinking about this. And I can see that this is a particular cycle. So like I mentioned, this is particularly unintentional. Now, if we was to shift this to intentional, I need to get a clicker. It will look like, sorry, everyone, I'm literally clicking and then it just stops. So if it was to be unintentional, it will look like this. I want everyone to see it's just a particular shift. And you're probably thinking, really, Harleny? So I'm just going to put my intentional thoughts and I'm going to shift in and I'm going to feel better. Repetition is key. The goal of this particular module, and of course, I'm not saying that if you do this module, you're going to feel better. If you feel that you do struggle and you need to, currently deal with things that are probably in your past or trauma, I always say, as social workers, we know never be afraid to seek help if needed. But when it comes to this particular module, it all comes down to you having that level of awareness to know that you have that power within. And the reason why I wanted to start this presentation, at this very moment with this particular topic is that this is your degree. This is your investment in your social work career. And there's so much noise within the social work field. And I want you all to recognize that you have that power to be able to do anything that you want to, right? There's not one size fits all approach, right? So it's coming from a place of you knowing that you're going to be identifying those interests. And again, I always say social work is what you make it. I mean, I'm a great example. I do so much from social services to recruiter to, business owner, now higher ed professional. I mean, I do it all and it's okay to be multi-passionate. So I wanted to start the current presentation with that before I get all into LinkedIn. So I want to check the chat real quick. Okay, now I want to making sure. And whoop, you see, this is what happens when you're on where you're clicking all those things and checking the chat. But yes, in the chat, thank you, Virginia, for I wrote an article, how to overcome imposter syndrome as a new social work grad. So I definitely go more in depth. Now, probably the moment that you all been waiting for about LinkedIn. So the reason, like I mentioned, to start the conversation with just really getting into that positive mindset, because LinkedIn can definitely seem so scary, right? I'm a huge extrovert, but for my fellow introverts, I can understand that putting yourself out there can be so scary. It can seem nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my God, what are people going to, imposter syndrome. So make sure you give it a name because you're like, no, I'm going to be able to step into my own power. So LinkedIn. And again, now in this particular section, I'm going to be sharing a lot. So this will be the time to please ask questions. And after I go over the entire LinkedIn process, we will definitely get to chatting. Now, LinkedIn, as some of you all may know or maybe not aware, I mean, LinkedIn is a platform. It's not like Instagram. It's not like Facebook. It's not like Pinterest. Like LinkedIn really opens opportunities, right? 98% of recruiters use LinkedIn as a hiring tool. Like I mentioned, I'm a recruiter as well here in New York City. I use LinkedIn Recruiter all the time. And even if I was to show you all how that particular platform, LinkedIn Recruiter, looks like, it all comes down to keywords. It all comes down to me searching, example, clinical social worker, or, a particular modality or where you're located. It all comes down to the skills that you put and the particular, opportunities that you're currently seeking. So it's very important for you all to have a level of awareness that LinkedIn, regardless if you already have your dream job secured, right? After graduation, I want everyone to know that you never know where you'll be in the next 6 months. You'll never know where you'll be in a year. The connections that you should all start building now is for your future. So it's always starting from a place of like, I'm going to be on LinkedIn to either grow my network, build my personal brand, secure an opportunity, or let's say you want to open up your private practice one day or be a part of, a particular board. I mean, again, not to make it so much about me, but I want everyone to really see the opportunities for LinkedIn because of LinkedIn. I mean, it landed me for me to be able to speak to you all today because of another collaboration that I did with other social workers. Terrell, I know you're here. You were also, right? And Tanara too. So we were all colleagues in a particular platform. So for the social work of network management. And that was all because of LinkedIn, of just collaborating and being in each other's space. Like anything is possible. Now, I'm literally going to give everyone an overview from top to bottom when it comes to LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm going to be sharing so much information, but I want everyone to first understand the foundations of your profile and then why optimizing your profile is going to lead to you building your personal brand. So in this particular example, Canva, which I created this PowerPoint, it is free. You can literally go to canva.com and you can look up, Zoom backgrounds, my Zoom background, I created on Canva. So Canva, you can do so much. So going with a LinkedIn banner is the first thing. Obviously, if you already did my LinkedIn profile, please don't feel intimidated. My particular profile is very, very business oriented. Now, this particular example, unless you are, trying to start your own business, then it will be the same concept. But when it comes to from your banner all the way to your particular recommendations, it all needs to highlight who you are. And as you're all trying to navigate and understand what your next moves are, don't focus on where you want to be, focus on where you are right now. Because like I mentioned, as human, we're always evolving. So if you're currently working, with nonprofit organizations or with children and families, and you see yourself within the next 6 months working with that particular population, whether it's macro or clinical, stay with that. Because I see it all the time. My clients tell me like, I don't know what I want to do and I want to target this and I want to target this. It's okay. Remember, multi-passionate. It's okay to, explore different settings, but don't let your brain overwhelm you with the future. Just focus on what you're targeting right now. So this particular banner is, as you can see, and this is from one of my previous clients who obviously gave me permission to share this. In this particular banner, you can see her name, you can see her credentials, you can see that she's bilingual in Spanish, she's really huge on psychoeducation, collaboration. She's even a Reiki practitioner, and that's like an added bonus, but she really her background was in medical social work. She started as an intern, in dialysis, she started to build her particular experience. So if you're currently, doesn't matter if your previous internship or your future internship or previous roles, stick to what you know and highlight that. Because here's the thing, LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is literally your own sales page to your career. So you're always going to be building and you're always going to be adding. Now, the second thing is, which many people do not know this. Obviously, this particular example, you can see my banner, but I didn't want to start with this because people will be like, I don't have that. I'm not a business owner. So please disregard my banner. I wanted to use this example to show everyone to please edit your LinkedIn URL. Because when you first create a LinkedIn profile, it does everything automated for you. Your LinkedIn URL, your bio, all of those, your about me section, it does. And some of you are probably thinking, wow, my profile says student at this university, student intern or anything like that. It does it automatic for you. And people think, okay, which again, no guilt trip or anything, but people think that, oh, my LinkedIn profile is optimized. No, you literally have to go back there and edit. But it first starts with your LinkedIn URL, because if you probably go to your profile now, it's going to say your name and gazillion letters and numbers. So just write your name. If you have a common name, then add your credentials or your upcoming credentials. Because when recruiters or anyone, they're going to Google, they're going to search you, right? So if they search your name and your profile is going to pop up. So make sure that you go, something that you can definitely go do away. Now, profile photo. Now, as you can see that this is my headshot for everything. I literally took this one with my iPhone. I had a, selfie stick, and I just took it very simple. And the reason why I'm saying that, because most people think that, oh my God, I need a professional photo shoot. Make sure that you can see your face clearly. Like if you're with curly hair, have your curly hair. If you have, being very, specific right now when it comes to like hair or even like jewelry. But when it comes to, don't be afraid to be you. However you show up on an everyday today, you should show up like that on LinkedIn. Because think about it, if recruiter or hiring managers, search you up and you try to come across that something that you're not an everyday today, you're going to feed into that energy if you get called for interview, like, oh my God, but I don't look like that in my photo and all those things. Like, you don't want any mind drama for yourself, if that makes sense. But keep it very short and sweet, something that's going to be in alignment to you. Another question that I often get asked is, what about graduation photos? There's nothing wrong with having, you just graduated, I definitely had it myself. I say give yourself about 6 months, to a year after, like once you graduate, after at least 6 months to a year, then change your photo, because you don't want to be known as always that new recent grad, because you're evolving. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Now, headline mistakes. Like I mentioned, LinkedIn does everything automatic for you. So making sure that you just leave it very generic. And don't worry, I'm going to give you all step by step. And like Virginia mentioned earlier, everyone should or already received my own summary with headlines and all those things, like the step by step, framework and example, because again, I know I'm going to be seeing a lot of information. So when it comes to your headline, just like I was mentioning in your banner, it needs to show who you are, right? Your areas of interest. Your headline is the same way, right? By you just having student at this university or, employee at this agency, it doesn't say anything about your current skill set. And this is where you start building your personal brand. Your personal brand is you and what you have to offer in that very moment. So it starts with your headline. And again, don't let your brain consume you with, but I don't know what I want to do. And I don't know what a population. You do not need to be, they say, niche. If you want to work with all ages and all individuals, that's totally fine. They don't narrow things down. And don't worry, I'm going to give examples shortly. But this particular formula that I say is something that you want to make things easier if someone goes to your profile. Like, okay, this person, this is who they are, this is who they help, and this is how you help them. And this is how I can contact you. And again, I'll break this down shortly. So in this particular example, I say write down the following, but please do not do this right now, because like I said, everyone will be receiving an email with the breakdown of all of this and examples too. But it's just to reiterate that, start thinking about, okay, you can say recent social worker or aspiring social worker right now, because you're going to be graduating, right? And you can put MSW candidate, right? Because maybe you're all going to be graduating next semester or in the next year. So it's something that right now, that's who you are, right? And then who you help. Do you want to work with children and families? Do you only want to be a macro social worker, work with nonprofits? Do you want to, work with a particular, like, what's your area of focus right now? That's who you help. Then what you do you help them enhance their wellness? Do you provide psychoeducational workshops? Like, you have to ask yourself, my dog, you have to ask yourself, what do you want to be known for? And again, it's okay if you're going to be changing, you're going to be evolving. But if you're like, I love facilitating groups, I'm very good conducting biopsychosocial assessments, I'm good at de-escalating crisis, whatever it is, make sure that you start building that personal brand as to what you want to be known for. So start kind of thinking. And again, in the particular worksheet that you're all going to get, you can start breaking all of this down. It's going to make it easier for your brain to really process all of this. Water break. Now, like I mentioned, this particular example is obviously as a business owner, but I wanted everyone to just see an example breaking this down. Who am I? I'm a career coach. I'm a social worker. I'm a recruiter. The list goes on. Who do I help? I help social workers. I help them interview. I help them enhance their confidence. I help them market themselves on LinkedIn to secure their next role. Like, that is my mission statement and how I help them through my online programs and one-on-one coaching. Now, this is something, again, you can do this as well. You can start narrowing down, start building your own job description. And again, focus on what you're currently interested right now, not on what you potentially will be. Because once you touch that point in your life that you're like, I no longer want to work with children and families, I want to work with elderly, you switch. That's it. It's a matter of just reframing. This is the marketing piece. You're evolving, and that's totally okay. This is what I meant in regards to those keywords. So if you're able to start narrowing down all of your areas of focus that you enjoy, right? You can start, let's say you maybe have a job description in mind that you're like, wow, this is the type of job that I want to target once I get my degree. Start looking at all of the particular keywords. And when I mean keywords is, think of a job description. When they say, you know, current requirements or what they look for in a candidate, take a highlighter, print it or put it on Microsoft Word and highlight it and see the type of keywords that they're using. And only focus on the ones that you feel confident enough that you're able to show, I'm able to do this. If you have no knowledge of motivational interviewing, do not focus on that. If you have knowledge of another modality, focus on that. Because a job description is just a wish list, at least 3 out of the 5. Right? So coming from a place of maybe you can tell your brain is nobody wants to know it all. And trust me, this is coming from a recruiter. Right? So this is how you build your confidence within. Like, I'm just going to take my shot and I'm going to start highlighting things that I currently have the confidence to say that I know how to do this to the best of your ability. And again, y'all, I know I'm saying a lot. Please put comments, questions, thoughts in the chat box because we're going to get chatting once I'm done. Now, this is another particular example of a headline. So let's say, and again, this can look something like, let's say someone just graduated, social worker, or they say the recent grad, or let's say you're currently a social work intern, you can put social work intern. So right now, focus on what is your particular title. Now, let's say in this particular example, you know, this particular person's goal is to work with children, adolescents, you know, treatment interventions, individual and group counseling, right? With a goal to just enhance wellness. All of these you can put in your headline. And of course, this part, and there's so many in the particular document that you're all going to have, you're going to be seeing different examples. This is just one of them. There's one example that just has a mission statement, like I mentioned. And then this one has those particular skills and keywords that I was telling you about in regards to the job description. Now, this is where we get into the summary. Now, summary is your about me section. The one that I say that when you first do a LinkedIn profile, it does it automatic for you. Now, in your about me section, it's the same concept as your headline. Like, who are you? I always say, and again, this is in the email that you're all getting, that particular document. Always remember your why. Why did you get into social work? What is your own mission statement to your life and to what you want to achieve? Your LinkedIn bio is the best place to say that, of course, to your level of comfort. I'm not saying you have to share your whole life story. Only share what you feel comfortable in saying. Because again, your LinkedIn profile, it should mirror your resume, but it should not be copy and paste. Because remember, your LinkedIn profile, part of your personal branding is showing that you have something more to offer than just your resume. The goal, of course, like a resume, but your LinkedIn profile is to get a recruiter or one in your network to build and start that conversation. Like, that's the goal, regardless of whatever avenue it goes, a job, internship, fellowship, collaboration, whatever it is, that is the goal. So in your particular summary, you want to make sure, like I said, show your personality. Don't be afraid to be you, right? Of course, if you wanted to share that you have pets or you're a parent, again, people go that personal, but only do that if you feel comfortable. Please do not share anything you don't feel comfortable in sharing about, right? When I say use headers and bullet points, now LinkedIn, of course, if you go on Microsoft Word and you put things in bolds and you put certain things and you copy and paste into LinkedIn, it's not going to take that. There's another particular website, which Virginia, I'm going to send you after because I totally forgot to send it. It's a free website that you're going to have to put everything into that website, then copy and paste. LinkedIn has so much restrictions, but just in case you wanted to make it a little bit more appealing, don't be afraid to add emojis. You can be on your phone in the LinkedIn app and add emojis. I'm just saying, like, don't be afraid to be you. Now, when it comes to expertise section, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I don't know. Expertise section, Focus on things you learned in your internship and your previous roles that you know you enjoy and that you're good at. It could have been that you co-facilitated a workshop 3 times a week to children and families on, life skills. I'm just giving an example. Or it could have been something that you shadowed a particular crisis intervention situation. Like, don't be afraid to just highlight your abilities, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to show that, like, I'm eager to learn. I'm here to learn and grow. And then a call to action is, once you're able to really identify like who you are, your area of expertise in that moment, then what's your goal? Of course, if you're currently are employed and you don't want your job to know that you're looking for a job, then just put let's connect, right? You can put let's connect, short and sweet. If you're currently not employed and you're like, I want to have a job as soon as I graduate, then you can say, I am looking for a blank role. Let's connect, and you can put your email address. So it goes to your level of comfort. But please don't think that if you don't put, I'm looking for a blank role, people are not going to reach out. Yes, they will. And this goes back to what I was just saying, right? Really identifying your why, right? You want to be able to paint that picture as to who you are and what you have to offer. That's all when it comes to your personal branding, right? You were currently part of Phi Alpha, honor society, especially as a recent grad or new grad, like highlight that. Those are accomplishments. Just know you're always going to be evolving. Volunteer work, maybe you did certain fellowships. Like, it's a way to take inventory of everything that you've done for so far, even if it has not been in social work. I've seen so many times my clients, it's like, they'll send me their resume and I'm like, this is all you did? And they're like, no, but this is only my only social work things that I did. And I'm like, let me see your other resume. And then they were a manager at Target. And I'm like, you were a manager at Target? You know how many transferable skills we can highlight? And people don't think that. People think like, it's not social work, I can't put it. No, if you had leadership skills in any particular role that wasn't social work, please highlight it. Those are all transferable skills, part of your personal brand. So obviously I kind of went a little bit ahead, but this is more of the particular format that I was saying about your summary, right? As you can see where it says the example that I put, crisis intervention, CBT, family therapy, that's pretty much where you're also highlighting your expertise sections, those skills when it comes to, again, look at your resume, highlight certain things, right? Certain keywords, look at the ideal job description and mirror it, saying, okay, do I feel comfortable saying that I have this particular knowledge? And again, no one's going to make you take the DSM in an interview. I mean, I will hope not. But again, it's all about you having that level of awareness to know, like, I'm very familiar with this modality and I would like to build on that. Transparency is key to the best of your ability, of course. Now the experience section. Now this particular section, this is where you should not copy and paste your resume, because here's the thing. If a recruiter hiring manager reached out, right, and they're like, hey, I see your particular profile, send me your resume, and it's the exact same thing, where's the excitement in that? You want to get them to say, hey, I want to interview you. So you're probably thinking, wow, I recently had my resume written, now I have to do this whole thing again. No. Think of this particular concept as storytelling. If you was to tell your colleague what you're doing every day today, how will you say it? So you kind of have to think of that particular perspective, that I'm just going to say what I do and not worry so much about these marketing, particular words. No, share your story, what you do. Like, why are you interested in that organization? Or, like, don't be afraid to add a little bit about you, and please write in first person. This goes for your entire LinkedIn profile. Now, your education and training, of course, if it's been more than 5 years that you graduated high school, you do not need to list your high school. I mean, you already earned your bachelor's degree. No need to put your high school, like, just bachelor's degree is fine. And of course, add any awards, any clubs that you're currently a part of. Like, you'll be surprised what you can search on LinkedIn and it'll show up. Now, skills and endorsements. Now, regarding skills, this goes hand on hand with the expertise that I mentioned, the expertise section and all of those keywords, and really highlighting everything that you feel comfortable in saying, like example, motivational interviewing, social services. I'm just literally giving a few examples. Those are skills, and you should add up to 50. And this is where you're going to have to be strategic as to the type of skills that you put. Everything that you should, for now, because again, it's always going to change. You should put all of those 50 skills to the type of job that you want to attract, right? So if you only want to target children and families, let's believe all those 50 skills has to really be honed in that particular area and that setting that you're trying to attract. Because going back to what I mentioned earlier, that LinkedIn recruiter platform, that's where the keywords come into mind. Because if you're like, you want to target children and families and you have things that are relevant to adults, then your profile is not going to be, searchable, at least within the first few searches, right? Now, endorsements, I mean, not look around, but look next to your screens on Zoom. You all can endorse one another. Of course, if you follow me and I will endorse you. I mean, please say who you are, because I get so many requests. But coming from a place of, the more you endorse, like people endorse you in those skills, honestly, the goal of LinkedIn to your LinkedIn profile is to get more eyeballs on your profile. So the more skills that you're able to be endorsed, then the more your profile will appear in searches. And LinkedIn actually has a section that you can see what agencies are my profile being, appearing for. And this, you'll be able to see it on your dashboard. You go to your LinkedIn profile, you'll be able to see a dashboard. Again, I know LinkedIn on the top of my head, you'll see like views, you'll see where it says views if you post, and then it says, the last one, the third one, when it comes to searches. So you'll be able to see like every 14 days, it updates it to the type of agencies that, you're currently, let's say you want to target higher ed. And for some reason, you're getting a whole bunch of banks pop up. That means you have some bank terms on your profile. So it's making sure that you keep track of that particular data. And recommendations. I mean, this is the last part of your particular profile is, again, you all can use one another, this particular organization, mentors, previous professors, someone that can speak highly of your skills. Like there's nothing like me going to a profile and I see all of this. I'm like, it's like I won a lottery, because the thing is that lottery as the recruiter, of course, many people do not know the power of optimizing your LinkedIn profile. People think, most people, and again, no shame, it's like, oh, I have a LinkedIn profile, I'm good, people are going to find me. No, it's a search engine. You have to optimize. There's so many people on LinkedIn. And another thing before I get into, engaging and networking and all those things, make sure you take account of your particular settings, how strict you have your settings, because sometimes I see most people have their settings on LinkedIn so strict that if I was to search you, number one, I wouldn't be able to see your picture. I wouldn't be able to see anything. So make sure that you don't have, no one can see, like no one can search for me. So making sure, maybe you didn't know. I mean, I've had many clients that didn't even know they restricted it. So go into your settings and see what you currently have in your particular feature. Engaging on LinkedIn. One pause. I am being mindful of time. Okay, we're good. We're on track. And again, y'all, I'm saying a lot. So questions, thoughts, comments, please put them on the chat box. In the last 20 minutes, we're going to be engaging in Q&A. Oh, going back to what I originally said when it comes to LinkedIn, you first want to be there with an intention. What is your goal? Because everything that you do on LinkedIn needs to be direct and, intentional, because if not, it's going to turn like Instagram and Facebook and you're just going to be scrolling without a goal, without a purpose, right? Because of course you're going to have your LinkedIn profile already optimized, and please make sure you optimize it. But coming from a place of, when it comes to networking, again, knowing your particular goals, right? It's important to now don't connect with other social workers and mental health professionals. Connect with people, because again, you never know who knows who, right? Like let's say you connected with a vice president. I'm just giving an example. Vice president at Bank of America. You don't know who they know in their network. right? And again, there's so many people on this particular platform, and it's coming from a place that you're able to engage to the best of your own comfort. Again, if you're like, I don't want to put myself out there, I don't want to be adding all these people, that's fine. I'm going to be explaining another way that you can go ahead and, still connect with people and build your presence. Well, first, if you end up connecting with someone, please personalize it. Here's the thing. If you're on your phone and you press a request, you're not going to be able to send a personalized invite. But if you're on desktop, then you're going to be able to do that. So be mindful. Don't send requests on your phone. If you don't have access to a desktop right now and only your phone, make sure you click the 3 little buttons on your phone to be able to say send personalized invite. Because think about it, when you get a request, you're like, who is this person? Why they want to connect with me? People think the same way. And I don't also want imposter syndrome to kick in and say, oh, we shouldn't connect with this person. What are they going to say? No, LinkedIn is a networking platform. It's not like Instagram. It's not like Facebook. It's a networking platform. So again, something when it comes to your personalized invite is you can be very generic, like, hey, whatever their name is, I see that you're vice president of, this and this agency. I'm an upcoming social worker or recent grad. I would love to, have you in my network. That's it. Short and sweet. You don't have to go say, because the personalized invite is only 300 characters. So there's only so much you can say. Now, before I get into what to post, I want to also go back to when it comes to if you don't feel comfortable actually reaching out and connecting with people. Here's the thing. Of course, y'all, please connect with me because I have so many people in my network, right? And the reason why I say that is to at least start off, for example, let's say you accept, well, I hope you accept me, but you accept me in your network, right? And let's say I liked a particular article that, let's say, a VP wrote. You'll be able to see my activities, right? Because you're in my network. So you can go ahead, if you feel comfortable, then commenting at that post without being able to connect with them, if that makes sense. So the way that you're able to see other people's activity is, number one, you can follow them too. So LinkedIn, example, right now, if you go to my profile, it's going to say follow. It's not going to say connect. But LinkedIn has 2 features. If you follow someone, then you can see their feed. You just won't be able to message them. You need to be connected with someone to message them. So that's one thing that I wanted to highlight. But this all goes into your personal brand, because by you just sharing your opinion, let's say someone, really has some, it can be some, on LinkedIn, and this goes what to post. People post, they land a new job, or they pass their licensure, or you could write an article. If you write blogs, you can definitely write an article on LinkedIn too. Another thing that you can also, any lessons that you learn as you're currently wrapping up your internship, like, don't be afraid to add you and your personal touch, because the more that you're able to build and share your own voice on LinkedIn, that's how you build your personal brand. So I know there's just so many layers here, but I really want everyone to understand is that just start off what you feel comfortable, and everything else is going to build shortly. Slowly but surely, you'll find your own LinkedIn community, because the same people will start popping up in your feed. If you always connect with a certain person, let's say they always, share certain, themes, you're like, wow, I love your content. Remember, the goal is to engage and put yourself out there as best as you can, because you don't know who they know. As somebody's always watching. And then last but not least, this is pretty much what I just said when it comes to engaging. Don't be afraid to give value. Like, don't be afraid to share your own opinion, right? Like, if people post news, people do lives and all those things, but I don't want people to think like, oh my God, I don't be creating content that's so overwhelming. Just first start with optimizing your LinkedIn profile to the best of your ability, that if someone was to come to your profile, they're like, okay, this person can do this, they can offer this, and this is how I can connect with them. This is what they're looking for. Another thing is finding your own community to the best of your ability, whether that's posting, whether that's engaging on someone's post, or liking, right? Because you can also liking, and it's just build that presence over time. like I mentioned, the goal is to get visible, just continue to put yourself out there as best as you can. I know I said so much information. I think I went a little fast. But I mean, it's 3:50 now. We still have about, 40 minutes. So I guess 20 extra minutes of, time. I just want to make sure that I give everyone enough time. I mean, you can definitely put in the chat box and mute yourself. This is my favorite part when it comes to engaging. So thank you again for your time. So I'm going to go to the chat. Well, I want to make sure. Also, never mind. Okay, this is being recorded. Sorry, I was seeing a direct message. Somebody had to leave, but they said great presentation.
Thank you, Harleny. Just a few notes. Well, first of all, I appreciate the presentation. I know I had a lot of takeaways. I love that you started with imposter syndrome and naming it. I had read tips before about how to address imposter syndrome. So I like that social work, social work lens and angle to addressing imposter syndrome and naming it that mean kid in school, or, making a funny slant to it, just because if we don't address that and recognize it, then it's really hard to market ourselves and go after what we need to be going after. And I thought I knew a lot about LinkedIn, but it's really refreshing to hear from a social worker recruiter and just a recruiter in general, because I realized I did not know a lot about LinkedIn and how those who are using it on the inside look for keywords and all that. So thank you. I'm definitely going to take a look at all these resources that you shared. Speaking of, I put the resources in the chat box for the audience members. If you are going to edit, there's some Word documents in the folder that I shared. Please let me know if any of you are having issues accessing the folder. But if you are going to edit in the Word documents and go through the templates that Harleny shared, please make sure that you save the files to your personal computer before editing in the shared folder, just to make a note there. We did have a question pop up from Thanera that I want to go ahead and start off with. She asked, if you focus on your skills with your current focus, can you go back and change later as your interest and career changes over time?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the perfect example. I mean, I first started working with children and families before I stepped into recruiter and entrepreneurship. So it's something that the same way you're currently focusing on your current skills, once you come from a place of like, I don't want to work with this population or I want to change, you just do a whole rebrand, right? Because again, we evolve over time. So you just do a whole rebrand, right? I mean, many times go ahead.
No. No, I wanted you to finish your rebrand, your point. What I was thinking of is the endorsements with skills in LinkedIn. So one of the examples I would give is like grant writing is a skill that early in my career was one of the 50 listed, maybe because we already talked about this. Great presentation, Harleny. I hate all the things with LinkedIn because I haven't done anything with it, but I need to do more. And so grant writing is something I hate. Everyone who's in this room probably already knows that. So, but I've been endorsed for it by people. And so one of the things when you were talking about like, oh, put your 50 skills and then people will endorse it and that brings people to your profile. And I'm like, I don't want anybody looking at that skill. I want you to go away and look at another skill that I have that I've built over time. And then there's skills that I've never listed because there may be new skills. And so I'm assuming then I can go back and delete them. Okay. So
absolutely. Honestly, like every 6 months, you should be doing your own inventory of your career, right? Like I know it sounds nerve-wracking. You're like, oh my God, I have to go to my LinkedIn profile every 6 months. What? No, but it's something that if you did learn or you got a new certification or you change, scope of practice, absolutely go back. You can edit. Nothing is permanent on LinkedIn. I don't want you to think that if you add a skill, you're like, oh my God, I can't. Even if people endorsed it, you can definitely go back and delete it. So absolutely. Great question. Keep them coming. This is Q&A. This is the Q&A part.
I'll ask all my LinkedIn questions.
Let's do it.
Something else is recommendations. You didn't talk about recommendations.
I thought I did in the end.
Did you? talk about
Yeah, I
recommendation?
said to ask your mentors, to ask your.
Okay. So one of the questions I had was how, maybe I missed it too, because I maybe dropped off for
It's
a minute,
okay.
but how often, should you be getting recommendations? Is it, I guess you're doing this every 6 months. So should you be constantly getting recommendations, or is it something where like I have something from someone, and maybe this means nothing to all of you on the phone. This is a Thanera problem, very unique. But like I have something from someone that's almost a decade old in LinkedIn, and the person is like no longer in the organization. The recommendation is still really relevant. So I like what she said, but like if you look at her profile, she's not there. Like the reference that she's making is kind of a strange piece, but what she said is still relevant to my career. So I don't want to like delete her recommendation because it's talking about work that I still do. But she's not with the organization that she's actually talking about me
No,
helping.
of course. So I think you said it perfectly. It's still part of your own particular mission, right? Especially, you as like the CEO. So all of that is definitely relevant. So I say definitely put it if it's something that's relevant, to your own mission. And this is a great question for anyone in the future if you decide to build, your private practice and you have, specific colleagues, or if you worked on a project, right? If you maybe publish an article, whatever it is, the goal is that someone's able to speak and highlight your particular skills, right? So it doesn't matter that it was like years ago. If they have something great to say and they're willing to do it, then I say go for it, right? Because no one's going to be like, oh, wow, this is this is not, no, they came more about the message and the impact, right? So if it's relevant, I say absolutely leave it. Looking at the chat.
We have another question from Erica. She asks, what do you suggest we look for, in parentheses, or red flags when looking at job postings or consulting opportunities on LinkedIn?
Perfect question. And I love that you said that, because again, there's just so much we could talk about LinkedIn. And of course, I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but this is also another part of networking. As you currently start identifying those ideal roles and those target companies, I always tell my clients, go find someone in that particular role that you're trying to obtain. Because by a job description, you're not gonna be able to get a sense of the work culture, how they treat their employees. Obviously they're not gonna talk about like salary and all those things. That's something that if you get an interview, but you to get an understanding as a whole to ensure that organization aligns with your own mission and value. This is where networking is going to come into piece. Those informational interviews. And for anyone who doesn't know what an informational interview is literally you getting the 411. It's just as simple as you're like, example, let's say you're of mine was an organization that you're like, wow, this is my dream, organization. And, let's say I was a social worker in that agency. Is coming from a place of like, hey, Harleny, I see that you work for Your Evolve Mind. I'm currently exploring options. I would love if you can share some insights when it comes to your overall experience in that organization. Something short and sweet, because here's the thing. Someone's going to give you time of day. If people don't respond back, this means nothing of you. And I want to stress that enough as everyone, if you guys will feel comfortable putting yourself out there, because I hear it all the time when it comes to my clients of like, I message this person and I message this person and they don't get a response. You have to think, do you check LinkedIn every day? Do you check? You have to also come from a place of like, don't focus on the people that are not going to give you time of day, and focus on the people that are going to actually give you insight. Best believe, most social workers, we love to chat, right? Well, many of my clients will be like, hey, this is this organization. So for anyone who's currently exploring, especially now, I'm assuming most of you are interns and going to be graduating, this is your key moment to start networking and building your own target list before you graduate, before even a job is open, right? Because if you're able to build those networks now, you never know when you graduate and you spoke to, example, the director, the VP or social worker a few months ago who said, keep me, follow up with me once you graduate. Like, this is how you secure a role before you graduate and not 6 months later. So this is why networking is key. And again, if you're like, I don't know what I want to do, I want to try it all, start building your own job description with the skills that you have right now, and everything else is going to flow, right? Another advice that I have is, if you're currently unsure, look at the organizations in your area that you're currently interested in and you would love to learn more about, right? So it's two ways. Have your job description, highlight your skills, build on that, or build a list of your target companies in your area, right? Whether it's higher ed, organization, your for-profit, whatever it is. And then go on LinkedIn, see who works there. Don't search a title, but search just the organization, and then start building those conversations. I hope that was helpful. If not, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I love that question, Erica. Thank you. And great tips and advice. So we have another question from Cody. She wants to know the inside scoop as a LinkedIn recruiter. Can you talk a little bit more about how recruiters are finding people on LinkedIn? What does that process look like?
Of course. So LinkedIn literally has a platform called LinkedIn Recruiter that it literally looks like a search engine. I mean, I won't be able to share, but it's what I'm trying to say is okay, perfect example. Think of Google, right? Let's say Google was a LinkedIn Recruiter, right? Like a search engine. The only difference besides Google and LinkedIn Recruiter, it has like tabs. I'll be able to put location. Is this person active? Is this person put open to work? Is this person, it doesn't go all so much about like, I mean, if people wanted to, if they wanted to put like gender and all those things, which that can be kind of, discrimination, but it has so many features as to, if I really had this perfect picture in mind of this ideal candidate, LinkedIn will find it for me. If I'm like, I want someone who's been active in the last 30 days, it's going to highlight that particular profile. So that's the reason why I'm telling everyone right now. And again, I'm not telling you post and do all these things. Just start with optimizing your LinkedIn profile. I also have a LinkedIn group, which I'm also going to share with Virginia. Again, I do so much, but I want you all to be part of the LinkedIn group, because sometimes I post like resources there and stuff like that. But most importantly, you all could get to network with social workers all over. But start building your network now, because again, like I mentioned before, you never know where you'll be in the next 6 months. But LinkedIn Recruiter is literally something very optimized, and it'll either show the person's email address, sometimes their number. That's if you put it in your profile. So one more thing that I forgot to mention, when you go to your settings and you look up like your contact info, best believe if you put your number, anyone can see your number. So be mindful that you don't go put in your phone number and then strangers can start calling you. Email address, I say absolutely, like you should have your email address. Unless you put one of the settings, I say if you're putting yourself out there on LinkedIn, please put your email address, because you never know. Don't restrict that. Obviously, numbers, I have my numbers like, on settings, like you don't want to get random calls, but your email address. And if you're like, you can create a new email address too, right? You can create on Hotmail, Gmail, all these platforms. If you're like, I just want to create one for potential people, then you can definitely do that. So I hope that answered your question. Marie, I see your hand. Come meet yourself. Hi.
Yeah, I couldn't really figure out how to put it in text without
No, I
it
love
being
it. I
really
love it. So
long. So I was like, I'll just ask. So how do you put in like a profile, like you said, for somebody that is, I don't know what you call it, like multi-passionate? Like, you have like very like different areas of interest, but they might all be social work, but they're different, different areas. So how do you put like a profile out that's like organized, but not, it doesn't seem like scattered or unfocused, or like, how do you, so like if you have interest in like clinical service, but then you have like interest in macro service, like there's different skills and different like keywords and different things, that you have to put in there for all of those without it looking like scattered or 15 pages long.
No, great question. So my first thought to that is everything that you have mentioned is just going to make you more marketable, right? Meaning that you're just not going to be known for one thing. You're going to be known for multiple things, right? And I don't want you to get in your head when it comes to, OMG, on LinkedIn, I quote unquote sound like a mess, right? Like that's a thought. Going back to what I mentioned before, that your thoughts influence the type of action that you decide to take. So I think with you is, if you're multi-passionate, I mean, I'm very multi-passionate too, but focus and validate your overall goal. It doesn't matter that you want to do clinical, macro, you still have a goal, whether it's, like I mentioned, enhancing the individual's, overall wellness, or helping organizations, increase referrals. I'm literally making this up. There's still a goal. So it's okay to have both of those things on your LinkedIn platform. Recruiters are still going to find you, because if I was to find someone who has all of those skills, I'm just going to, like, it doesn't matter whether you have one or the other, you're still going to pop up, because the more you have, the more your profile is going to be, in the first few searches. And that's what I mean when it comes to, it's a search engine, like literally. I wish I could show you all, but I can't, because, my agency pays for that. But it's just something that, just think of a search engine. Just think that, okay, if someone's to Google search me, right? What would I want to be known for? And I think for anyone, of course, you can get in your head. And the best thing to do is look at your current resume, right? Take a highlighter, put it on Word and highlight it, and build on everything that you have to offer right now, and see where you can build on that, right? And coming from a place of, the second piece is building your network, right? So if you currently have your own job description of, like, I'm a great facilitator. I'm giving an example. You can start asking yourself these questions. I am great at facilitating workshops. I am great at data entry. I am great, and the list goes on. You have that as your particular, like, course sets. And then when you start reaching out to people in those target companies, and you hear what the organization's, like, mission and values are all about, you're like, okay, where am I a good fit? Because again, the goal is just to think more broad for now, where you are in your career, and be able to build on that. So I hope that answers your question.
This is great.
Okay.
Keep the questions coming. I have a few of my own.
Yes,
something
let's
that
do
I'm
it.
noticing trending on LinkedIn, and I see that you have it on your profile also, is talks about, and then hashtags on trending topics, I guess. How important is that to follow the LinkedIn trends that are out there? And should we be putting that on our profile?
Perfect question. So the reason I didn't mention that, because I don't want no one's head to start spinning. So in order to get that feature, is you have to put yourself as a creator, meaning, like, you have to literally go to your settings and click, like, turn on LinkedIn creator, meaning that you're a creator, that you share content and all those things. But if you have a blog and you're like, I share content, then that will be something that you will turn on, right? You're like, I like to talk about this particular topic and this particular topic, because if someone goes to my page, obviously they see I talk about social workers, professional development. I forgot what else I put. I put so many in there, but you can only have up to 5. So like I mentioned, if you currently are a creator, then this will be definitely something for you to turn on. If not, please don't worry about it, because then you're just going to spin out.
Okay, that's good to know. I saw a few of my friends or colleagues on LinkedIn had that, and I was just curious about that. So thank you. I have another question that comes up for me. It's come up a few times where I see somebody's profile is not necessarily LinkedIn appropriate. It's not necessarily a professional photo. It's maybe more for Instagram or maybe their TikTok profile. How would you go about giving unsolicited feedback? And maybe this is beyond the scope of this a workshop, and this goes to just giving unsolicited feedback in general. But if anybody has any advice on how to politely tell a colleague or somebody that you manage, or somebody that maybe even manages you, like, hey, have you ever thought about changing your profile photo? I mean, how would you go about it, doing that?
Great question. I mean, this is something I have encountered many times with my previous interns, my clients. And honestly, just having an honest, open conversation. And it all comes down to, of course, how you say it versus, not saying anything on, like, hey, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you're aware, your particular, photo. Have you tried, now I'm backing up my own words. But coming from a place of just having an honest conversation and really bringing it on them rather than saying like, hey, you need to change your profile picture, right? So it's really coming from the tone of like, hey, what do you think about your own profile picture? You know, what have you thought of? Like first assessing where they're at. Because what if they're like, oh yeah, I don't like it. I need to change it, but I don't know how, right? Maybe that's their first thought, or the second thought they may say is, I think it's fine. And then I'm saying, okay, you know, I definitely validate that, but I just wanted to give you some insight just in case you thought it might be helpful. That I found, you know, most of the common you know, photos tends to be like that. Another thing that I forgot to mention, there's this website. This is going a little off topic. I think it's photo reeler. I gotta find the link. So people, strangers, and I know it may sound creepy, they rate your photo. So they rate your photo because I mean, we all know first impressions are everything. And people can be turned off by your photo. People can be like, and it is crazy because it could be certain things that maybe the angle is not right or anything like that. If anybody wanted to go to the extreme, it's free. I mean, I know most creators have used it. I used it myself. And again, it was just more of a different angle, but it's not something that people are going to rate you with comments. It's just more like a likable scale. I know it sounds creepy, but if you wanted to go to that extent, I'll share the link. But sorry, Virginia, I don't mean to go off topic, but that's pretty much when it comes to, it all comes down to your approach, but also coming from a place of like, hey, I'm mentioning this because I care. I just want to know that if you have this level of awareness, at the end of the day, it's their choice, whatever they decide to do with it.
Thank you. Okay, we have another message from Terrell in the chat box. He's asking, what's the website? He's curious.
I'm gonna send
He wants to
Virginia a whole. No, for sure. I'm gonna send Virginia like a whole bunch of links that came to mind. Again, I wanted to talk about it. I don't want you all to get an email and be like, oh my God, what is this? So many stuff. So I got everyone.
We definitely will be sharing in an email afterwards all the resources that we've been discussing here in case you all have been overwhelmed and having a hard time keeping track. Thanera is raising her hand. Go ahead, Thanera.
Oh, and I saw Alyssa actually. I think Alyssa had it before. Thanera.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just Thanera, do you want to go first? Oh, bad. Thank you so much for this. This was so helpful. I'm like you, Ginny. I feel like I didn't know anything about LinkedIn. I thought I did, but now I feel like I knew nothing. So this was really, really insightful. I was just curious for you as a career coach, like how does someone go about hiring you? And like, what's that process like of you working with them? Is it like a short process or do you stay with them long term? Like how many clients on average do you work with? It just got me very interested in your personal career.
Of course. So, I mean, great question. So because I mentioned I am a woman of many talents, my during the day, I'm a talent equity manager. So I'm a recruiter. I'm a social work recruiter for NYC community schools here in New York. And I also have my own business. And again, I do so much, and I'm sharing all of this because I want everyone to know, like, you can do it all. You can do it all. I'm also a per diem. So I want to say it's per diem. I'm student affairs coordinator for Adelphi's online MSW program. So that's new. But when it comes to anyone who, or you may know someone, so I'm very client centered, right? So it's coming from a place of someone, whether it's short term, whether it's long term, right? So it's coming in place of your level of needs at the time. I mean, the longest that I work with clients are usually 3 months. Coming from a place of not saying it takes 3 months to find a job, but again, everyone's needs are differently, right? So like short term and long term. So at this time, thank you for sharing my website. So usually my particular capacity at this time is either in 2 cohorts. You're either going to work with me privately, right? Whether it's short-term or long-term. And this ranges from, new grads all the way to seasoned social worker. And then I also have my signature program, Social Work Graduate Academy, that is designed only for new, recent, or even upcoming social work grads, right? So that more is like a 9-10 week cohort. So that is what I have at this time, because of course I also work with different social work schools. I host workshops like this and, do other career coaching services. So I hope that answered your question. But if you or anyone, are interested in learning more, just, message me. I will be more than glad. My particular process, I always like to consult, right? I generally care. So I always like to ensure that it's a good fit for you and that I can be the best person to help you. So I hope that answered your question.
Danira, go ahead. I know you had a question.
Yeah, let me lower my hand too. So we were talking about photos and just like profile things as a person of color and just a woman. How have you seen, from the recruiter standpoint, what about some of the things related to like Black-owned businesses or women-owned businesses in the profile? How do they benefit or hurt profiles? Should people be emphasizing or de-emphasizing or up, is it beneficial to list maybe the places where you're associated with things that maybe align you with more marginalized populations or identities? How have you seen that play in LinkedIn? I tend to think LinkedIn is more conservative than some of the other social platforms. And so how have you seen that from the recruitment standpoint and the keywords and things? And have you seen, because I know I've gone that back and forth with some of those things where it can benefit and not. So wondered what your perspective was.
Great question. Oh my God, this topic gets me hyped. So never be afraid to own your truth. I mean, at the end of the day, I know, right? Like me being Latina, first generation woman of color, like never be afraid to be you. And regardless if you do have your own business or anything like that, you want to be able, this is part of your personal brand. Might as well put all your cards in the table. And LinkedIn appreciates that. People may think that, oh my God, you have to be all suit and tie. No. Like the other day I shared a post about me, being the first in my family, and it hit 1 million views. It hit 1 million views, and not saying I care about views, but the reason why I'm saying that one post made so much impact that my DMs, I motivated, encouraged other first gen to share their story. So that LinkedIn has so much power to, bring that impact, right? And I say put all your cards in the table. My organization, my employer, both of my actual job, you know what I mean? Besides my business, both of my jobs, the per diem and my full-time, no, I have my own business. I'm not hiding anything. It's something that I said in my interview. I said I have my own business, it's not going to be a conflict of interest. So it's something that for anyone who, you might have a side hustle, you might be opening your own private practice, whatever it is, put all the cards in the table, because this is just another added layer to making yourself more marketable. So it's something about LinkedIn loves that. People like LinkedIn love for you to, like, I don't want to say like start things, but just start the conversation. People go on LinkedIn to just hold conversations. So absolutely, I say we all have to stick together.
Yeah, I was as you asked that question, Zanera, I was like, well, my LinkedIn profile is probably, well, it's much more conservative than any of my other social media. But there is still representation there. And then when it comes to like, I just started really putting my consulting website like on my LinkedIn. I even created a little the profile, like the business profile, and linked it to my account. And though the consulting website, I think it's like very there in front of you. And for and speaking of that, I was listening to a song the other day that's called Let's Have a Kiki. And like on my website, that's what I sort of call our sort of group huddles, is like a Kiki. And my brother was listening to the song and he was like, wait, isn't that on your website? And I was like, yes. I was like, how are you not tuned into this yet?
I say put it all out there. I mean, and I know I follow you and all that stuff, and it's just like, yeah, just keep being, you never know who's watching, you never know who knows who, right? So it's all about just building that and all those things. And I mean, again, I always say I've been really active for the last like 2.5 years on LinkedIn, and it's literally changed my life. And I'm only starting, y'all. Right. So it's something that get on LinkedIn, more on LinkedIn if you're not on LinkedIn, and just start building those connections, because you don't know where it's going to take you. And get involved. Obviously, Cali, is everyone here from Cali? Everyone in Cali? No? Okay. So in your own state, just get involved with anything that's social work related, right? I forgot to mention, which, because again, I do so much, but because of LinkedIn at one point, NASW New York City chapter, I was, one of their committee members, which I'm not no more, because again, I do so much, but I am a board member for the Latino Social Work Coalition Fund here in New York. And all of that was because of LinkedIn. So just tap into your own city chapter, attend events, networking events, because you never know. Your next boss can be there, or supervisor, or colleague, or partner. You never know.
I love that. Just put it all out there. Yesterday, ahead of this meeting, I was looking, and LinkedIn provides templates for banners. And I was hesitant. There's some banners here. I'm just looking at it now. Stand for justice, be an ally. And I was worried that it was too out there or cheesy. And, I didn't want that to limit recruiters searching for me. What would be your advice for like having a template background that LinkedIn offers versus creating one of your own that is more personalized?
Great question. I feel that it really comes down to your own level of comfort. If you're like, wow, the template that LinkedIn, like I really stand for it, like best believe, go ahead. But there's so much power in creating your own, because, by you saying, I'm an ally, you can still do that by creating your own, but you can also add more. So I think it's coming from a place of your own comfort. I mean, there's some of my clients are like, I don't want to do all that. I just want to pick one, and that's okay. As long as you focus on the other areas of, of your particular profile. But I always say, like, again, going back to owning your truth, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there to everything that you currently stand for, because you don't want to put yourself under a rock and then you step into an organization that doesn't align with what you stand for. Might as well, like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. You're either going to be, yes or nay, right? Like, and I think sometimes too, people think like, oh my God, but I don't know. Like, the world is changing. And especially with this pandemic, I mean, don't get me started. Like, I think it's just knowing where to be, next. I'm like, I pressed something.
No, that was me. There's one button down from opening the chat box, and it's to stop the recording. My apologies.
No, it's just me going on a rant, but I hope this was helpful for everyone. And, like I said, I'm going to be sending a whole bunch of links. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, message me. I also have a podcast. I mean, I have so much. I have so much, but I just want to help, and I just love my community. So yay for us social workers.
I did want to follow up on one last point. You had mentioned open to work, and I noticed when somebody, well, I've noticed profiles that have that front and center on the profile picture, open to work. Is there a way, because some people might not feel comfortable putting that out there, but maybe they want recruiters to see that and not necessarily the general public? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, I love that you said that. Okay, so when you go to your profile, when you actually click open to work, it's going to say, have that green crazy banner, or it's going to say only put for recruiters. Make sure you click only open to recruiters. Here's my opinion. And if you literally go on LinkedIn and you put hashtag open to work, there's so much conversation around this. And I always say, please do what you feel worked for you. I've had some clients like, Harleny, I just want to try it. It's not going to make no difference, I swear. Because here's the thing. As a recruiter, I see that. And again, if you want to really go into the conversation, go on LinkedIn, hashtag open to work, and you're going to read all these conversations. But as a recruiter, it comes out you're desperate. you're so open to work that you just want any job. And again, you probably are, and you need a job. Like, please do what is best for you, and your family. But if you currently are in a situation that you get to be selective, I would not put that. I'd rather focus on building your network and really optimizing your LinkedIn profile to the best of your ability, and not saying like, I'm open to work, right? So it's coming from a place of you kind of have to try it, but I feel that it just comes out as desperate. But if you want to get into that conversation, hashtag open to work on LinkedIn and you'll see it, then you'll make the decision that's best for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. There is a psychology to it as well, right? Don't be out there, but don't appear too desperate.
Yes, because the thing is that, the last thing I'm going to say is like, even with resumes, right? With resumes or anything, employers are greedy. They want to know what's in it for me? Like, why should I hire you? When someone looks at your resume, when someone looks at your LinkedIn profile, they're thinking the same thing, right? This is why I'm saying, like, focus on the population that you want to serve right now in the next 6 months. If you want to change it up, even if you change it up, then you do a rebrand. But for now, you need to study that organization when you start applying and putting yourself out there to the T. So make sure that your cover letter and your resume is targeted to that, because, and okay, I can go on and on, but again, as everyone is starting, and I get so passionate, this is why. But as everyone starts building those connections and you start coming across, let's say you speak to a hiring manager, recruiter, or whoever, make sure your conversations are going to be tailored to them, right? Like, hey, if you're going to get your doctorate, then that's amazing. But nobody needs to know that in 6 months, you're going to go applying to school, because that's not tailored to what the organization stands for. So you kind of have to think in that particular perspective that you really have to be tailored to them. But of course, never losing sight of who you are. So boom, that's what I leave everyone with. But any last minute questions, thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I thought it was funny that the conversation around the open to work. Danara knows, and me and maybe some other folks in the room, but I'm like leisurely looking for a new job. Like, my boss knows that feel as though I've outgrown my position. And I actually got a message from LinkedIn from like the CEO of an organization about a job, and she's like, "Would you be looking for a new job?" And I was like, "Well, I'm leisurely looking for a job," and it felt very empowering. But I definitely understand the when you are in a situation where you might not be as flexible to be looking for a job, neither because of financial or toxic reasons in your workplace. But yeah, it is the open to work. I think it's a very interesting conversation, and very interesting actually with the hashtag. I've never read the hashtag for it, but I see both the banner. I see the banner in people's photos a lot. So.
Yeah, people just think that, oh, I'm gonna have open to work, my DMs are going, no, like, it's like, I can still be on LinkedIn Recruiter and put open to work, and you can have it, because again, if you go to the settings, it's gonna have two options. The green banner will say open to recruiters only. Just put open to recruiters in your profile. People are still gonna find you. You know what I mean? Networking is key. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Harleny, so much for all of this wisdom, and you have definitely been an inspiration. We're receiving some comments in the chat box, some thank yous. Yes, this was great. This was really helpful. Now we have a lot of work to do, from looking at our LinkedIn settings and making sure they're what we want to, like you said, reassessing our LinkedIn inventory. I know I'm going to hop off this call and make some changes. We look forward to sharing the resources. As we mentioned, we'll definitely share all these resources with anyone interested and with all of you here today. And thank you all for being engaged in the discussion and all of your poignant questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I mean, by the way, cheers, my dogs didn't crash. So yay. And I'm going to be sending, all these links. Connect with me. Even though I'll remember faces, but yes. So connect with me and all that stuff. Woo, what happened? I just clicked something. Okay, perfect. Yes, Sorrel, good to see you as well. See, he's in my network. He's in my network, so I recognize him, right? But yes, everyone. I mean, everyone keep being awesome, and just keep being you, and best believe putting it out to the universe. All of your opportunities are right around the corner. It all comes down to who you know. You only need the right connection and the right opportunity. Always remember that. So thank you everyone for your time. And well, here's about to be late, but for you, I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.